Oh, I like that. Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Ryan Sierra. This is the fifth episode of the Too Many Casts podcast. Just a quick preamble here at the beginning of this. One, you're gonna love this guest. Two, we like to do time skips. We love to do time skips. Two, three. Welcome back to Too Many Casts, the podcast with too many topics in an era where everyone has too many damn podcasts. You're listening to Too Many Casts. I'm Ryan Sierra, and let's bid our guest a warm, warm welcome.
What's
You could
up?
introduce.
I'll do my best. My name's Dylan Bailey. Um, Formerly known as BananaPieLord. Horrible name, but it happened.
And see, that totally segues perfectly to my first question here, or first sort of bullet point. Um, that is such a name that is emblematic of like old YouTube. I remember way
True.
back when. So I've had like a million YouTube accounts since like
Yeah.
I first got on the internet when I was young. Um, in fact, I still have three floating around right now that are still up there, and I just haven't because I haven't been able to log in and like delete them or anything because I forgot the
Oh,
password.
dude. Same. Same.
Yeah. So I remember my first account. This one is deleted, but my first account I ever made was called Dark Funny Lord because I was like, oh, I want to sound edgy, but also comedic.
It sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Oh my god, it does. Yes. Oh my god. So first bullet point here. As someone who's been on YouTube for a while, you represent two different eras of YouTube for me. Old YouTube, which this is obviously somewhat arbitrary, but nonetheless, I slap on the years of 2009 to 2014. And then, of course, the contemporary, the shithole where we are now, 2015 to 2021. Um, and I think you drop off around 2014, I think. And can you go into that?
Yeah, it was around 2014, maybe like early 2015. I think it was around the time that I released my album Silhouettes. I think that's what it was. But I mainly ended up dropping off just from, man, the internet was just getting weird. And I think me constantly being in the internet was taking a pretty serious toll on myself as a person. So I just kind of I dropped out completely. I guess when I do something, I either go half-hearted or like all the way. And at this point, well, at that point, I just dropped off all the way just to get away from everything, really.
Okay, so it was like, I mean, I'm sure it was a plethora of factors, really, but
Oh
you
yeah.
would say it definitely did have to do with, I guess, the climate of the internet around 2014.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, because I remember two important things happened in 2014. And I was in high school at the time, kind of dealing with my own crap. But I
Mm.
recall, like, looking back, like, it was, net neutrality was actually first brought up way back in 2014. I know back in 2017 there were those memes with the Ajit Pai guy, but back in
Yeah,
2014,
yeah.
yeah, back in 2014 that was when it was actually first brought up, believe it or not, because that was when I don't know if you know YouTuber Total Biscuit.
Yeah, yeah. I used to watch them all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Bless his soul. He made a video about net neutrality way back in 2014. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah,
And then of course we had the infamous Gamergate. Um,
yeah.
so 2014 was a double whammy apparently.
Oh, dude,
And
it
so then,
was.
yeah. Okay, so dumb question here, but like the second one I have is like, um, did you have any musical projects before I Am Sleepless?
Oh man, so many, so many. Unfortunately, most of them are lost in the relics of MySpace because I would just make random MySpace band pages all the time for like different songs that I wanted to make. None of the names caught on. I think one of them was Dylan the Villain. Um, I ripped a lyric out of an Owl City song. Subtle Variations of Blue. I think that's what it was. That was another one. I made so much garbage, and then I made stuff with Tyler before I Am Sleepless, and we did it under Sacrificial Secret because we thought that was a really cool and unique like Christian name. And oh my gosh, yeah, those are the big ones that I remember. Just tons of crap, tons of crap.
Well, you just reminded me of another musical project you did actually called Crystal Air.
Oh wow, dude, I forgot about that completely. Yeah, I did Crystal Air.
Yeah, what is it? Heart and Home, I think. Oh,
Yeah,
Sunset Getaway or something? Sunshine
dude,
Getaway?
you are far more well versed in this than I was expecting.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I don't mean to come off like a stan, but like let's see. So, um I have let's see. So, man, I've been on the internet. So, to give away how well versed in the internet kind of by and large I am,
Yeah.
um I remember being on Newgrounds when Ego Raptor was making like animations, and when
Whoa.
yeah, like I was on Newgrounds. That was like my very first thing. So I'm an internet boomer. I often like tell people, but yeah.
Dude, I'm right there with you, man. I was the same for me. I would get on Tyler and I actually we would get on Newgrounds all the time and just play all the horrible Flash games that we could find.
Oh my gosh, so it's so interesting. Speaking of Flash games on there, did you ever play a horror game on there called Ex Mortis?
That sounds really familiar.
It was a point and click horror game with like a few like spooky pop-ups, but
I can't remember if I did or not, but it does sound familiar.
yeah, I was thinking about it the other day because I'm like, out of all the trash on that site, that one actually like, I mean, it certainly didn't age well compared to the quality today, but that was one that like
True.
took itself the most seriously and tried to have like a story and put a lot of effort in. Um, so, what's been an LP you're particularly proud of to this day, minus your Minecraft stuff? And segueing into what I said just literally a second ago,
Mm.
um, I'm still into Minecraft all these years myself, um, eagerly awaiting 1.17. That's supposed to be like this huge update that they're actually bringing into like two different parts. And
Oh wow.
you were actually the very first Minecraft YouTuber I watched. I'm pretty sure. Like I remember your Sea Cove, Minecraft Sea Cove,
Yeah.
um, and back when you did the first episode on your and back then it was either like an early beta or like a late alpha
I
when you
think
first,
I think it was Alpha.
because you kept calling it Legoland. I remember.
Yeah, I did. I also
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good story or a bad story, but I was super broke and I really loved Pirate Bay back then. So for probably the
Mm.
first 20 episodes of that original Minecraft series, I would just crack a new alpha version of Minecraft every time it would come out. And then I'd get all these comments that were like, "Hey, dude, the new update just came out. Why are you still playing on the old one?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I didn't update mine yet." And then when I made enough money, I went and I bought the game. But like for the first 20 episodes of that Let's Play, I was just cracking the game like every time I recorded. It was terrible.
Oh my God. Wow. God, the only pirate website I remember back in the day was, do you remember Napster? It was like a
Oh,
music.
heck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Do you remember, oh, speaking of Napster, do you remember LimeWire?
I recall the name. I never used it, but I always heard about it. Yeah.
Dude, I would try to download songs all the time and they would just give me just horrible versions of them. Great
Yes, they were
time to be
talking.
alive.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Um, I remember. Well, I remember one time I used Napster when I was in a summer school program. Wow. Um, let's see. Oh yeah. So my bad. So the question is, what's been an LP you're particularly proud of, minus your Minecraft stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. It was crazy when I was thinking about that, and I didn't realize that I've actually done more than I've realized. But it's kind of a toss up between two. Um, Either my A Link to the Past Let's Play that I did, or the Banjo Kazooie one. And the Banjo Kazooie one for me holds a lot of nostalgia because that's like when I think of my childhood, I think of just playing that game. Um, so I think I did pretty good on that one, and the nostalgia of it just makes me really happy. But I think A Link to the Past, like editing wise, and like I went into pretty deep detail on the episodes and everything when I was editing. I think that one overall might be my favorite, just for like I guess it's for like 2012 or 13, like its technical proficiency back then, because it wasn't hard to impress people with editing back then.
Right? Like just feeling like you were watching something very voyeuristic and candid.
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah. And then what happened was though, like I guess over time though, for better or for worse, people came into the I don't want to say industry, but like people came into the industry and started making like high res stuff, and people, and then the consumers were like, okay, cool.
dude. So like when I dropped off of the internet, I mean like I dropped off really heavy. I would just watch random YouTube videos, but like I was off of mostly everything. But when I came back like a couple of years ago or whatever, and I was looking at vlogs and stuff that people were doing, and I
Yeah.
was like, I'm noticing all these drone shots and like multiple camera angles, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like thinking back to how I recorded vlogs on like an iPhone 4S or whatever, I'm just like, holy crap, this is really complicated stuff nowadays.
Yeah. Oh my God. Dude, you're preaching to the choir. Like, jeez. Like, yeah. No, my brain's mush right now, but I totally agree.
I'm glad we
Um,
can be internet boomers together, man.
exactly. Yeah. Um, wow. Okay. The next question I have is like totally off the deep end. What's your experience of Florida been during COVID? Because I know,
Uh,
yeah, because obviously 2020 is has not been very far behind us now, and
yeah.
it was a very historical year for a lot of reasons. One of those was, of course, the pandemic around, at least in my area in Virginia, it was around March, April was when it
Yeah.
got bad, and May is when it definitely got bad. Um, and among all of the minutia of like certain groups who don't like to wear masks, and all this the splintering of these passionate people. What was it like for you?
Man, you hit it on the head there, definitely in that last part. But it was March and April down here in Florida as well. And I work at a church, but at this big church, it hit pretty hard. Um Having to cancel everything and then like the mask mandate and everything was really crazy. But for Florida, people took it seriously for 1 week and then stopped taking it seriously, like where I'm at. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm in kind of like a weird limbo area in Florida because it's like the vacation beach part of it, and I'm right next to all this. So tourism and all that stuff is really big here, and so I brought up the church and everything because they followed the guidelines for like a week, and then like week two, where they're supposed to be like spacing people out and like people should be wearing masks when they come in. It was just like, yeah, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Just stay 6 feet away from each other. And just Florida was, as Florida is almost always portrayed by Florida Man, just the Wild West. It was insane, 100%, and it's still insane down here in Florida.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned tourist area. The only beach that's coming to mind is Cocoa.
Oh
Isn't
yeah, yeah.
Cocoa Beach is in Florida, right? Or am I getting my beaches mixed
You
up?
know what, dude? I'm just gonna say that it is, but I don't know where it's at. So, do you know where Jacksonville's at? Like in Florida? Have you ever heard of Jacksonville?
Oh, yes, actually, I believe from your old vlogs with Tyler.
Yes.
Um, so my grandparents used to live down in Florida, before
Okay.
moving back up to Virginia. It was so weird. I remember what I remember of Florida whenever I would go to see them is they claimed that they weren't too far away from Disney World. Like they were only like maybe like 30 minutes out. So
Oh
wherever
wow.
that is. Um, and everything was a highway. In order to get to anywhere in Florida, you had to cross a highway. Like it wasn't even like a state route or kind of like some suburban development. No, it was always like interstate this, interstate that. I'm like, what the hell?
100%.
Is that an accurate thing?
Absolutely do. Especially like if you go into Jacksonville or something, it's just all interstates. Everything is an interstate.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
ugly, man. I ain't gonna lie.
it's crazy. Um, that's very interesting. It's so funny though because highways are known to apparently be safer than like normal intersectiony like suburban development roads because of the lack of intersections. Because if everyone's going the same direction, that cuts down on potential ways people can harm each other on accident.
True.
So I've now warmed up to highways over the years,
I can imagine.
um, or
Jeez,
over the
dude.
months. It was only last year. But
2020 was a pretty crazy year for you then.
impeccably so. Good lord. Every time I met somebody who was like, "Eh, 2020 has been so-so. This pandemic, though, am I right? Can't wait for things to go back to normal." I always was just like, "Oh my God, you have no fucking idea." Um, so, um, I guess the next question, totally taking in a complete other direction. What's your take on Bethesda in recent years? They've recently gotten into some hot water over some stuff. I swear I don't know. Like I don't know if what the details were on this, but I swear there was like a shirt fiasco where they were supposed to send people some sort of like merch, and then it never got to them, and then they never like refunded the people who were asking for refunds. I'd heard
Oh,
hearsay of that, but I don't know. Um, let's see. Yeah, and then Fallout 76, a lot of people didn't like. Um, and then um, yeah, what's your take on Bethesda generally right now and Fallout 76?
oh man, dude. Fallout 76 was a hot piece of garbage when it came out. Oh my gosh. I just watched like every news video I could find on it. I think Mr. Matty Plays, if you've ever heard of that guy. He did a bunch of videos on Fallout 76 and he is a huge like Bethesda fan. So hearing him kind of be negative towards a Bethesda game was really weird. But man, 76 was nuts, dude. And you're right with the fiasco. I don't remember if it was a shirt or not, but I know that there was a duffel bag thing. They sent out like power armor helmets, I think, to special editions, and they started growing mold or something when people had them. There was like
Oh.
some kind of Nuka Cola Dark thing that they started selling, which is like an alcoholic beverage or whatever, and it was just absolute trash. Um, and then there
It
was
was a it was
issues. Do what?
it, it was a bad beer.
It was a bad. It tasted terrible, but it was also packaged like so badly that you couldn't even like pour it out without it spilling everywhere. Like it was just horrible, dude. Um,
Whoa.
yeah, seriously. And then all their like cheating and duping within the game, and like people getting their accounts banned because Bethesda's automated system thought they were bots and stuff. Yeah,
Oh
it
yeah.
was pretty hot mess for sure. But I love Bethesda. I've been a huge fan since Morrowind. Um, I've played Morrowind like on an Xbox and a PC and pretty much everything at this point in Skyrim and Oblivion and everything. I love Bethesda, but definitely it's been weird the past couple of years for sure. Um, I'm hesitant to see what happens now because I know they got bought out by Microsoft like a month ago or something. So I'm really curious to see what happens with that. But yeah, I think they're great, but I think the past couple of years has definitely not been their best at all. Like at all.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting. You mentioned Morrowind.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to get into that game, but that stupid combat system where it's like a dice roll combat,
Yeah. Yeah.
that absolutely broke it for me, right? Because I mean, that's literally like most of any action RPG free roam kind of game.
Yeah,
And I know, and I watch a lot of video essays these days because I mean, God, who doesn't watch video essays on YouTube these days?
true.
And and so many people talk about how much Morrowind is so much more unique, atmospheric, da 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 da, as opposed to like Skyrim, which was very streamlined. Um, and um, I get it. Like I don't disagree. I see their point, but I'm
Yeah,
just like, ooh, that stupid combat dice roll, man. Like, I just, if there was some sort of weird way to like just hack a Morrowind,
yeah,
I would love to just like play it like on like spectator mode on like Minecraft, but for like Morrowind.
yeah.
I actually don't know. And I think a lot of open world action RPGs are kind of guilty of this. But Oblivion in particular had quest breaking and game breaking like quest bugs. Um,
Really?
and at least when I played it on Steam PC.
Yeah.
Um, but and
Like, do
then
you remember like what part broke for you, or was it multiple parts?
yeah, so it was multiple. So two off the top of my head um, was that I guess the very first quest is like you and Martin and I think Joffrey have to go up to the Cloud Ruler Temple with the other blades. And I guess what happened was Martin, they like didn't show up, and I like went there and everything, and then I waited. Like I pressed T and tried to wait a few hours,
Yeah.
and nothing. And I looked at this and I googled around, and it was like it's probably because Martin and Joffrey got caught up fighting like some creatures or something, and you just kind of ditched them. And I was like, shit. So I went back to where I last left them, and I couldn't find them. And then I'm like, bro. And then I went back to Cloud Ruler, and they still weren't there. I'm like, my God,
Holy
these
crap.
dudes such dead weight. And then the Shivering Isles uh, DLC near the I think end of the quest, which is just total blue balls, man. There was a part where you're torturing this elf named like Marine
Yeah.
for being in on a conspiracy, and what happens is the what is it the ruler of Mania, I think the ruler the Queen of Mania in Shia Gorith's realm is
Yeah.
like, okay, we're gonna kill her, we're gonna get her, and she presses this stone that like electrocutes the Marine in the cage, and Marine doesn't die all the way. She like it goes down to like her last bit of health, and then she just regens, and then Marine is like, she just still says some radiant dialogue like,
Yeah.
"You've chosen a side, you fool," and then I go talk to the Queen of Dementia or whoever, and she's like, "Hold on, I'm going to kill Marine. I will meet you when we enter the chambers." And I'm like, I know, you just did. Do it again. She's still alive. Oh
Oh
my
my
god.
God.
Yeah. Um.
That's okay. That is horrible. That is literally like one of the worst things that could happen.
Oh
Oh
my
my
god.
gosh.
Yeah. Um. And then So I totally forgot that Bethesda was bought up by Microsoft. Um.
Yeah.
Because it definitely puts a spin on it. I don't know if you've been watching. Do you watch any YouTubers who do like Elder Scrolls lore and stuff like that, or Bethesda fan
Oh,
stuff? I know you mentioned
uh,
one guy just now, but
yeah, no, for lore stuff, I used to watch, I don't really watch him too much anymore, but I think his name's Oxhorn or something. He's done like a
oh,
bunch
okay.
of, I think mainly Fallout stuff for Bethesda lore. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's the main one. Yeah. You got any recommendations for any other good channels?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Fudge Muppet. Um,
Hmm.
they're a channel that does a lot of Elder Scrolls stuff. They also do, they do a podcast, of course, who doesn't,
Hey.
on like Elder Scrolls lore.
Mm.
Um, and I've actually been pleasantly surprised with them in recent months because they've actually been critical of Elder Scrolls lore in certain parts because they've really, at least, and I mean no offense, but they've really seemed like kind of just like really impassioned like fanboys of the series.
Yeah.
Whereas, for instance, like if you watch like I don't know, like someone like I don't know if you've ever seen a YouTuber named Strat Edgy Productions.
Yeah, I have. I have.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and that's a dude who's obviously like generally critical of these games and stuff and makes these critical video essays. Fudge Muppet's not like that. They're strictly these like lore fanboys. But recently they've been like more critical and more questioning of the production side of writing lore from like Bethesda's point of view. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Here we go.
Yeah.
Um, there's also Lady of the Scrolls. She's a female Elder Scrolls lore YouTuber.
Okay.
Um, So Camelworks is actually really good friends with Fudge Muppet
Mhm.
because they're both Australian YouTube channels. Um, and then Epic Nate is an American, but he does like because what happens is where they start to diverge though is Epic Nate and Camelworks do like theories, like they'll do like lore theories where they'll like pick apart all these different pieces of evidence from like a town in Oblivion
Yeah.
or in Skyrim and go like, okay, it's likely the case that this guy. So the most recent one I can think of that's I thought was just so darn clever and memorable, and then I'll move on to a new topic. Is I think it was either Epic Nate or Camelworks did a video where do you remember in Skyrim when you did the Winterhold Mage College quest and you had to meet somebody called the Augur of Dun Lane?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like down in the basement of the college.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those guys did a video theorizing that the Augur of Dun Lane is a Forsworn. And they got like a lot of evidence to back it up. And I was like,
Wow.
bro, this is really fascinating. Because I never thought to put the Forsworn together with like Winterhold.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So,
Um, oh,
I can I ask you a question real quick?
oh no, take as much time as you need. What's up?
I was kind of hoping that you would just flat out say no.
Oh, no, no to what?
But
Oh, no
I
to
was
recommendations.
I was thinking as we were talking about Elder Scrolls because I think both of us are pretty big fans of it. Do
Yeah.
you have a favorite Elder Scrolls game that you've played? Because I know you've played Morrowind, Oblivion, and I'm guessing Skyrim.
Oh yeah, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Online. Um,
That's a good one too.
yeah. You know, it's so funny. I mean, it's so interesting because they're all so different and they all meet different needs. you know?
Absolutely.
Um, I think, golly, you know, you know what?
I'm not going to
Here's a
judge
hot.
you verbally.
No, 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 no. It's okay. I'm actually gonna throw myself in the ringer. Hot take: Oblivion has better combat mechanics in Skyrim. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
That is a
So,
hot take, bro.
so basically, in Oblivion, two things. One,
Yeah.
when you get staggered from an opponent's stamina attack on you, it really staggers you. In Skyrim, you just get like dizzy, but in Oblivion, you like are paralyzed for like a second. So it really
True.
forces you. It forces you to like block and then swing and like time your hit strategically. So that keeps you incredibly focused on the combat. And I like how you're focused on the combat and not just mowing people down. Um, secondly, um, so as far as I can tell, when I played it anyway, the sneak skill in Oblivion was a lot more weighted and heavy than it was in Skyrim. For instance, when you were a low-level sneaker in Oblivion, you were easily found out, and it sucked for you. But when you tried and you focused to level that up, and the more you got a better sneak skill in Oblivion, the more you could literally like sneeze behind a bandit, and they wouldn't fuck with you. In
True.
Skyrim, in Skyrim, it seemed like it was all kind of just relatively kind of confined to your low level sneak. You're already pretty decent, and if you're high level sneak and you sneeze behind a bandit, or I'm just being figurative, they'll totally catch you. So Oblivion starts out, you suck horribly, and then you get so good with Sneak. In Skyrim, you start off great, and then you never really become amazing in Sneak, I feel like. So I say that because there's this meme of playing Skyrim where people became what were called stealth archers, and I realized when I was playing Oblivion that being a stealth archer in Oblivion was so much more fun because the sneak was so much more weighted.
True.
And oh, there's also more damage with sneak attacks with archery in Oblivion. If you sneak attack someone with archery in Oblivion, it does 3 times the damage or 5 times. In Skyrim, it only does two, like most of the time whenever I played.
Oh wow.
Um, I think though it's a weird toss up because Cyrodiil also feels like kind of bigger than Skyrim. Um,
True. Yeah, I can feel that.
yeah, but Skyrim, man, it's oh, you know what it is? Um,
Yeah.
so I want to say for the time being, I would say like Oblivion is my favorite, but that gets me to another topic that we could talk about, which is Dark Souls. So just it's so sexy and already laid out for you to just have a good time. And the
Yeah.
thing about that though is I think on the contrary, I think Skyrim is actually it's not a power fantasy game. It's just a mood game. Like you can that game there's just something about it where it's kind of like a mood game. You ever listen to like mood music where it's like
Oh
music
yeah.
that just sets a certain mood?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's Skyrim. I don't play Skyrim to feel powerful nor to feel really weak. I play it to sort of just feel like a certain way. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
think
yeah, I think you're
actually,
right on that.
yeah, and I think Dark Souls is actually a power fantasy because, while it might be really hard, that's the thing though, right? Like
Mm.
once you accomplish defeating all the Dark Soul bosses, and once you uncover all of the lore in that game, as you go along, um, it should totally make you feel, very accomplished, aka kind of power fantasy.
Yeah.
Um, so what's your take on Dark Souls?
Man, well, I think you laid that out really well because so I've played MMOs for
Thank
years.
you.
So that kind of power fantasy of there's that big boss or whatever, and then you take him down, and wow, at least you get like a crap ton of gear. But I think that's pretty spot on. And I've played every Souls game except for Bloodborne. That's the only one I
Oh,
haven't played, and that's the one that everyone says is fantastic. But yeah, I started with Dark Souls 2, which the community somewhat agrees that that is the worst one. I still liked it. And then I did Dark Souls 1 and I did Dark Souls 3 and I got into it right before Dark Souls 3 was releasing, so I got to binge 2 and then 1 right into 3. Um yeah, and then I played like Sekiro or Sekiro, the other ninja one that they
oh,
did.
yeah.
But dude, I love Dark Souls. Oh my gosh. I think I played that exclusively for a year at one point. I love those games.
Yeah. Yeah, I got into Bloodborne for a little bit there. I think Bloodborne was just it's so cool. And I think Bloodborne had a comic series. I
Did
swear
it?
I went into a comic store one time, um, in like Northern Virginia, and they had like it was like a Bloodborne comic. Conveniently enough, right next to the hentai. So, great. That's what yeah. Um, but
That's a
it's
beautiful pairing. I like what they did there.
right. Um, so I remember I actually played. So I've only played Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, and Bloodborne. And
Hmm.
funnily enough, I actually played Dark Souls 2 on a crappy laptop. And the game was just not rendering well. And
Yeah.
I had a terrible time. And then I never played it again. And then like what happened was, flash forward to where we are now. And I've been hearing a few takes of these actually, right, where people say DS2 is terrible. So I'm like, okay, good, keep it. Like, fine. I won't play it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Bloodborne. Bloodborne's really cool. I love that European meets Lovecraft aesthetic of
Yes.
Bloodborne.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, Dark Souls 1. Um, dog, I don't know what to say. Like it's so it's also a beautiful game. Um, let's see. So I guess any other games that come to mind?
Oh man. Well, recently, are we talking about games in general or like similar to like a Dark Souls?
We can do games in general.
All right. Perfect. Because I don't play that many games anymore, so I was really hoping you'd be lenient on that one. I recently got into, well, I started playing Final Fantasy VII like a couple months ago, and I was like, man, this is really good because I never played it as a kid because I only had an N64. And I started playing it and I was like, this is fantastic, but you know what? I really want to play an MMO. And then conveniently, Final Fantasy 14 was there with its arms open and a like month-long free trial. So I started playing Final Fantasy 14 online, and
Hmm.
I it's bad. I can't stop playing it. Like
Oh, okay.
I wake up really early on Sundays, and I usually used to get up to get myself ready for the day, but
Um, so I don't know what your experience has been with MMORPGs in the past few years, but I've kind of been a little bit of a doomer about it, where I feel like MMORPGs aren't like how they used to be. Like it felt like World of Warcraft circa 2009 and like kind of that kind of era. Um, it felt like you could make friends with anybody on like World of Warcraft or Xbox Live.
yeah,
Just like that era just felt like there it kind of felt the term is Eternal September, I think it is it's called. There was this Eternal September where it just felt like everybody was on the internet kind of for the same reasons, which is
yeah,
that to some degree, not to be too insulting at all, they were like, you know, kind of they were all kind of nerdish, and there was this Eternal
absolutely.
September about it, where therefore like we all just were we were all on the same page with what we were doing and what we were trying to do, and it just was immediately like friendship on like World of Warcraft or like I played this game on Xbox Live called Marble Blast Ultra, and it had a multiplayer feature, and I always got on like some sort of voice chat,
Yeah.
and I think I had like the I had the old fashioned. I had this stupid like starter pack Xbox headset where it was like
Mhm.
the McDonald's drive-through headset.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. Ugh. I'm like, why do we have just one earphone? Whatever. Um,
Yeah, that was a
Final.
really weird like design choice. I don't understand that one.
Yeah. Um, but then I've been hearing a lot of praises for Final Fantasy 14 MMO because like I know I try to get into like ESO for like a social aspect, or I'll play like Realm of the Mad God, or like just kind of like
Yeah.
multiplayer online stuff like games like that, and it just it's like the feeling is gone. What has happened? And it's so funny because it's not just me. I went on this subreddit r slash MMORPG, and
Mhm.
every flippin' day, like every few hours a day, or like at least a day a week, there's a post on there from some guy absolutely having a meltdown and being like, MMORPGs don't feel the same. Oh my god.
Well, no, I think you're right on that, man. I played WoW um heavy at the end of Burning Crusade and then like all throughout Wrath of the Lich King. So that's kind of in my mind like the golden time to play WoW was around that time.
Hmm.
Like the game was awesome. And like you said, I think everybody collectively had kind of the same mindset as to why they were on there playing the game. And it was easy to meet people. I remember just making so many random friends while playing
Yeah.
Wrath of the Lich King. I mean, like I met some random guy in a dungeon and I just joked with him the whole time. And the next thing I knew, him and I were in like Silver Moon, running around naked and like trolling people together. Um, just this random stupid crap. And whenever I play an MMO now, especially WoW, if you play it now, it's basically just a single player RPG. Like there's
Yeah.
no social aspect whatsoever. You feel so disconnected from everybody else. Final Fantasy 14 is like a little bit better. I've noticed people talk more and engage more, which is weird to see. But even then, it's still not like it used to be. So I'm agree with you 100% on that.
Hmm. Yeah. And then, I think a lot of the reasons for that are kind of like structural business model reasons. Like, I guess games in a way that many of us can't perceive, but also many of us likely can. It just seems like they're made differently. They actually are
Yeah.
structured differently because the companies found that they could make more money. Um, Making these weird like free to play, pay to win, single player, human ambiance kinds of games instead
Yeah.
of the more like subscription based, hang out with your friends after school kind of stuff. Um, and then of course, part of that too is I guess, and I don't blame MOBAs too much or just esports in general too much, but of course everybody has hopped on over to like League of Legends and Hearthstone, as well as
Oh
like
yeah.
what Rocket League and Brawlhalla. So okay, cool. Oh, here we go. Um, non-video games. What board games or card games have interested you? Um, yeah.
Oh man. So I I'll admit I don't keep up with any board games nowadays, but
Hmm.
there was a board game that I used to play all the time as a kid, and I never see anybody bring it up, but it was called Enchanted Forest, and
That sounds
man,
familiar.
it was the weirdest game ever, like as a little southern kid growing up in Georgia, because it felt so like foreign. I don't know. That was my cat. I don't know if it was made in America or not, but it was such a weird game because you go throughout this forest and then like different little things will like pop up and happen, and I think there's like bears or like witches or stuff in it. It's such a weird game. It was like a pre RPG before they were on games or whatever. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
my weird one.
like D&D.
Yeah,
Um,
basically.
yeah. Um, Not even like you never even played like Risk or Settlers of Catan?
Oh, so no, I haven't.
Well, there we go.
It's like I thought I had a really good story there, and then I remembered I didn't. But I've heard a lot about Risk, and I've heard a lot about the other one too. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I've never played them. Have you played either of those before?
I think it's been a while since I played Risk. Settlers of Catan. It's been also been a while, but not that long. Settlers of Catan is the one where you are trying to draw a hand full of resources, right? For your stuff. Um, but um, yeah, I'm looking at the Google images of Risk right now. Okay, yeah, Risk is also a similar thing. It's like a dominate the world, spread out a civilization kind of thing.
I'll look with you so we can look at the
Oh yeah.
same thing. Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen people like play this, but I've never played it before.
Wow. Oh, Okay, Settlers of Catan is the one where everything is a hexagon. I like
Oh.
Settlers of Catan. I like that hexagon look to it.
Oh yeah. Okay, I've seen this one too. Yeah, I know what this is.
Yeah.
I've seen them, but I've never played them.
Um. So let's see here. So getting back to music, so that way we don't lose music too much. Um, what are some musical inspirations that have led you to I Am Sleepless and your current stuff?
Oh man.
And let's see. How, and obviously, if you're not comfortable, you're not comfortable. Totally respect that. Um, I noticed though, especially since I've been like a longtime fan, like a lot of your albums have been dedicated to like previous relationships.
Yeah.
Sweet, man. That's what's up. But yeah, what are some other like artists that have inspired you?
Um, so when I first started, my biggest influence was Owl City. And I think that's
Mm.
like as soon as like you hear any of my songs, you probably hear a little bit of old Owl City in it because I loved the way that Adam Young would do his synths and stuff, like the glidey, I think it was like square wave kind of sounding thing, like almost video game chip tune sounding. I loved that stuff. So he was the biggest inspiration for me starting. And man, unfortunately, most of my original inspirations are super cringy because it's like it was Hell City. It was this guy called Nicosaur. I don't know if you've ever heard of that guy. It's like an old scene artist or something back in the MySpace
Oh,
days. It was terrible. So it
I
was
mean,
that
I've never
guy.
heard of Nicosaur, but I know the scene phase. Yeah.
It was so scene. And then Play Radio Play was a big one. Kind of obscure. I don't think a lot of people know about that guy. But Owl City was absolutely what made me start doing like the electronic music and everything. And yeah, he's still a big inspiration to me now because I think it's just look at each album, and you're right. Every single album, besides Illuminate, is dedicated to a girl. And if anybody, if you're gonna make an album, bro, or if anybody listening is gonna make an album, just word of word of advice, don't dedicate it to a girl because every time you think of that album, you'll think of that girl. So there is my musically sage advice for you. But as
You
I
know what's
do
oh,
what?
you know what's interesting though about that is do you know the band Tame Impala?
Yeah, Kevin Parker. I love that guy.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah. You know what is it? His was the album called Currents, the one he did I think like around 2015. That
Is that the one that
was
looks like it has the marble ball on it or whatever?
yeah, like the marble clitoris thing. Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure that was dedicated to someone he was romantically involved with on and off. Because a friend of mine who was a really so I'm kind of like a casual fan of Tame Impala. I mean, I love them, but like, this friend of mine totally he dwarfs me because he goes to Tame Impala concerts and he watches all these Kevin Parker interviews and apparently he had said that that album, I think it was called Currents, is it's actually if you listen to it from start to finish and you listen to it as it tries to tell this story, each song that comes after another is about it's sort of like a phase of falling in and out of love with someone. So I'm like that's really clever.
That's really interesting. I like that a lot. I didn't, so I'm the same as you. Like, Slow Rush and Currents. Like, I love those two albums, but I haven't gone like super deep down the Kevin Parker rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Um, like I've watched some stuff on him, like how he records, because I love the way that he produces his stuff. But yeah, so before I trail off here again, so when I started making music, Owl City was absolutely like my number one inspiration. But as you look at the albums as they go on, Hollow Man, each one was inspired kind of by whatever I was into at that point, I suppose. So
Hmm.
when I was doing Hollow Man, Tyler and I got into this really weird, like hipster, earthy naturalist kind of phase vibe. So we were listening to tons of acoustic music, like really folky stuff, and we are like going on these like health nut trips and everything. So I was listening to a ton of Fleet Foxes, and then I was listening to man, I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but it was called Trampled by Turtles. It was like this really awesome folk band. But Hollow Man was when I was kind of getting out of like heavier electronic music and going more towards natural sounding stuff. So that's why that was shaped that way. And then when Silhouettes came out, I was I was getting more into the like the dancier kind of music and then also a little bit of country. And I
Hmm.
think if I remember my album songs properly, I think Wolf is on Silhouettes. Yeah, I think I did Wolf. I sang on two songs on those, but Wolf was inspired by a Casey Musgrave song called "Follow Your Arrow," and I started to
Oh
get
wow.
like into country a little bit for that album, and then jazz a little bit for that album, and then like Martin Garrix for that album. So that was a weird mishmash of whatever I was listening to at that point. And then after Silhouettes, I yeah, after Silhouettes was weird, but I started to listen to a lot of like lo-fi music because I think that's around the time that it was starting to become like pretty prominent and popular.
2015,
And
2016, I think.
yeah, yeah, around that time. Because
Yeah.
what I love about like lo-fi music, especially like lo-fi like chill hop and stuff like that, is it's just an
Yeah.
evolution of like chilled out ambient music. And I was already making ambient music. I had done that on and off for years. And it was just like, hey, I can make ambient music, but I can have like a chill hop beat and I can make it sound like I recorded it on a toaster. And I love that. So
Yeah.
I started listening to a lot of lo-fi, and then I started really kind of wanting to get better at music and like what I was doing and understanding it more. So I went on a huge like music theory rabbit hole thing before that album. I went into some random Indian song from like 1959 on one of the tracks. I sampled
Oh,
like train
Native
stations and do
Native
what?
American. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you mean Native American or New Delhi?
New Delhi.
Okay.
Yeah, so I sampled some stuff from that, and then like I sampled some stuff from like Japanese stuff that I was watching, like trains or like conversations on trains or sounds that I was hearing. And it was a huge like just experiment of seeing what I could throw into an Ableton like sampler and then come out with something. So that album was just fun, kind of figuring out what all the tools at my disposal are. And then, yeah, man, after Illuminate, that's when I so, is it fine if I somewhat segue into something else as we're
Oh yeah,
talking
no,
about this?
no, go ahead. I actually love this. I totally love that you're ranting because this is about you. When people want to hear you talk.
Well, you're awesome, dude. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
So after Illuminate was done, Illuminate was when I got really, really heavy into church stuff. And Illuminate was in 2017. And it's been since 2017 since I've made an album. So it's been a hot minute, excluding like little dinky worship albums. But I finished Illuminate, and then I got really, really heavy into church stuff. So when I say really heavy, I mean I was there like 4 days a week, and I was just volunteering. I was like really heavy into doing youth stuff. I was leading worship. I was leading like band practices and stuff, and it became just such a big part of what I was doing that my style then was turning into contemporary worship. So very weird roller coaster of genres from the start to like 2017 or I guess 2018 or whatever at that point, where I was doing all the contemporary Christian stuff. And so much contemporary Christian music. And I put out a couple songs that were worship songs. Um, but yeah, I just, because I was so busy with church and because I was so busy with that, music kind of fell to the side for me, which was really weird. I look back at it now and it's like, man, I can't believe I just kind of stopped because I was so busy with other stuff. But at the church that I'm at
Yeah.
now, 2020 for you especially was a really weird year. Um, but everybody had something weird happen. And 2020 was kind of the year that I think I had a second mental break because all the Corona stuff was starting to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
I was starting to question a lot of my personal beliefs. And I was starting to
Mm-hmm.
question a lot of why was I making music in the first place? Just one of those fun, big existential questions that just kind of come
Soul
at your
searching.
way every like couple of years, and you're like, ah, so now I got to figure out why I'm actually alive and what my purpose brings. One of those really fun ones.
Right.
So
Of course.
2020,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, just so fun. but 2020, when all the Corona stuff ramped up in about probably March and then April, when, like you said, when it hit pretty bad, um, I just was questioning religion. I was questioning my faith. I was questioning what I wanted to do with my life. I was questioning music. And for, I want to say, four, 4 years, because of being really heavy into church stuff and writing contemporary Christian music and only playing contemporary Christian music, they only use like 5 chords in like all of their songs. So creatively, I was like dead. It was like when you go to write a contemporary Christian worship song, you start on this one chord and then you go to this other chord and you're good. And so creatively, like as a musician and an artist, I was so burnt out on those
Hmm.
chords. And 20 I think in April of 2020, I was just like I was like, dude, I can't write more worship songs. I can't do it. This is just killing me to write the same stuff like all over again. So I went down this big, big rabbit hole of music. And for I don't know like how I think you said that you're spiritual, currently
Yeah.
agnostic, but
Yeah.
I know for a lot of I guess Christians nowadays, when you go really deep into it, you kind of cut yourself off from everything that isn't Christian. So
Hmm.
I wasn't listening, and I just started listening to the first artist I found, and I can't believe I found him so late. I was so mad about it, but I started listening to Mac DeMarco. Have you heard of him?
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, so I binged all of his albums. Like I just kept playing them through and like listening to it, and I was listening to the chords and everything, and I was like, it's like, man, this is so good. I haven't heard anything like this in forever. And then I found like Tame Impala after that. I started listening to some of Tyler the Creator's newest albums.
Hmm.
Um, man, I went down. I just started devouring everything I could find. Now I'm listening to like 80s Japanese music. I don't know where I'm at, but I'm somewhere.
City
But
pop. That there it
dude,
is.
it's so good.
Honest. I
It's
mean,
so good.
yeah. It's so crazy. It's so crazy because I actually personally um, did get obsessed with Maria Takeuchi Plastic Love for a while, and then I found out that apparently it's actually this whole big meme. Like everyone is making remixes and stuff of Plastic Love these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, let's see. And then one of it wasn't Plastic Love, but then there was another city pop one, um, another '80s Japanese song that was used as a TikTok sound for a little bit there.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Um, what did you? I wrote some notes down as you were talking, and of course, just because they're just terrible, because I'm a doctor in nothing except handwriting. Um, country. So you said you got into. Oh, 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 oh. So I have this interesting cringy question.
Yeah.
Um, so I sent you my song the other day. Um, and I think you must have listened to it for a good second there because you were like, "Oh, this is cool." Um, what was your take on it? Yeah.
Uh, where did you send it? Because I don't remember.
Oh, just I think it was Twitter. It was Twitter messages, but if you don't remember, that's okay. I have another question. Let's see.
Wait. No, 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 no. I do.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I remember it. Okay. All right. I was looking through Discord and I was like, did I listen to something? Because I don't remember it at all.
Oh
No,
yeah.
no,
No.
no, no, no. I remember it. The Destiny and Future one, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Dude. Okay. Okay. So I gotta ask you,
Yeah.
did you use loops? Like, did you program the stuff in? Like, how'd you make it?
Oh yeah, totally. So I use a musical program where they basically say it's pre-rendered sounds,
Yeah.
but and they it's really cool. They said you can. totally make your songs and you can like sell your albums. They said the only thing that you can't do is obviously like use just full on use those single audios that we have and say that you did those because you didn't. We
Yeah.
recorded those. But if you mix them all together and throw them together and make, this original new Lego monster of a song out of them, then yeah, it's yours. And so I'm like, sweet, I'm doing that. So yeah, it's basically it's to me it's like playing with Legos.
Dude, I really there I remember as soon as I listened to it, the thing that stuck out to me, I really liked the drum beat, but I really liked the synth that you were using. That synth just made me happy. I don't know what to say about it except it just made me happy. I really like that synth.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, because so far, I mean, um, for that specifically, my inspirations would be a subgenre these days that's out on the internet called what's called future funk and
Yeah.
alternative rock. Like I just was like, how can I mix like trippy kawaii future funk with like Nirvana?
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
see, yeah. Um, But I actually, and I know that was sort of me putting my best foot forward, but I actually have a ton of also original music on my YouTube channel that I could just throw your way anytime. Because it's so interesting. I really resonate with your stuff because I feel like I do the same things you do with content. I'm
Yeah.
like a gamer musician, right? Like I like to do game stuff, and I love making original songs. You know.
Well, honestly, man, so so have you how long have you been making music for?
So on my YouTube channel currently now, it's been I definitely after October of 2020 for sure, like post October 2020 on my YouTube channel now, because that's when I made my YouTube channel, where I'm gonna upload this video to. It was made
Yeah.
October 2020. Um, Now since let's see, well, I had I it's funny. Back in I think 2013, 2014, I made a kind of personal musical project that I showed like a few friends at high school and this one girl I was crushing on, called Dream Scent. And then I've been like on and off I guess since 2014 to say it quickly. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was like I had a stint in 2014. I had a big stint in like 2016, um, where I made alternative rock. I tried to make some alternative rock in 2016. Back in 2014, it was chiptune pop, and then 2016 was alternative rock, and then 2017, um, I it was pop punk. I tried my hand at pop punk, and then I think kind of throughout sort of sprinkled throughout 2018 and 2019 on no, no, also 2018 into 2017,
Yeah.
sprinkled throughout. I had uploaded a bunch of stuff that was often experimental and stupid to SoundCloud, and then now I'm here. um yeah, so
Well, dude, I really like your song, and I think what I was gonna say was you had mentioned that you just put out stuff sometimes just to do it, see if you can do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
I think honestly, man, that is like the best way to do songs. Like I found so often when I go into a song and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, or if I'm halfway through it, I'm like, I don't know what the heck this thing is even supposed to be. But by finishing it, or air quotes, finishing it, because it's never fully finished, I could always change so many things about any song I've done. I'm sure you can relate on that. But
yeah, yeah.
just getting it out there and
Hmm.
knowing that air quotes, it's done, it kind of helps you be critical about what you're going to do going into your next song. And I think it helps a lot as a musician and an artist to get it out there and just
Mm-hmm.
be free to move on to something else and take what you've learned and what you failed at from that previous project and then implement it into the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I'm pretty sure if I ran like a measuring tape from the alternative rock that I did in 2016 to the alternative rock I tried to do now, um, yeah, you would see like, oh yeah, he evolved pretty linearly.
I feel
Um,
that one.
um, let's see. Um, okay, so yeah, so to keep it spicy, let's ping pong to other stuff. I just want to get these out of the way because I feel like I don't know, they're cool. Um, apparently, I left a popular comment on your BananaPieLord's face, Zomg. I was
Oh
like
my God.
I was looking through some of your videos before the episode tonight because I was like, study the guests and like remember like, you know, interesting things to bring up.
Yeah.
And it's so cool on my YouTube channel, Ryan Sear too. One of the comments I left on one of your videos, I guess it must have been re-uploaded, um, is I think the highest rated comment on there right now. So I'm like, hey,
Dude, I gotta go check this
yeah,
out now.
yeah. It's like Banana Pilot's face is Zomji, and it was so funny because I think it is an old video. It looks like. I think it's re-uploaded and it says like 2020, but it was old because
Oh yeah, it's old.
it was like a girl with a tennis ball about to hit her forehead, and it was like this old meme and old editing style and everything. Um, so so let's see. Oh, and then you did a game review in 2013 on not on That's So Raven for the Game Boy Advanced. Um, people were like doing niche reviews back then. But then it reminded me. Did you ever watch a YouTuber in 2012 named Nerdwriter?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude. It's
Yeah.
been a hot minute. I haven't heard anybody bring Nerd Rider up in a bit.
Yeah, he's the guy who like yeah, I think he does like he's now a speaker on one of the PBS or Crash Course channels. But
Yeah,
yeah, wow. Yeah, he did like a lot of videos I think covering like Wall Street protests back in the day. But yeah.
yeah.
Um
I loved
and then
his stuff.
yeah, yeah. Um Oh, yes. Hold on. So I have a big question for you because
All right.
this is the question of pretty much I think what a lot of people want to know. And maybe you mentioned it forever ago in yonder years, but it's time to excavate it. But first, I just want to say, getting back to music, I want to get this compliment out of the way. Your music makes me feel nostalgic, but in like a good way. Like when I listen to like old I Am Sleepless songs, I don't feel like wistfully nostalgia, like oh man, yeah, those were the days, shit. Instead, I feel like a kind of like hopeful nostalgia. Like I feel like very excited and like young again and stuff. Like damn, this shit was awesome. This shit is still awesome. So hell yeah, thank you for that. I Am Sleepless.
Jeez, man, that's a huge compliment. I really appreciate that.
Oh yeah. Um, But the big question, getting to the meat and potatoes of your Minecraft Let's Plays, what inspired Texty?
Uh, so I love answering this because it's a horrible answer. But there was before I started making YouTube videos on that channel on Old Bipple. Did you ever watch a guy named Proton John who would do like Mario ROM hacks?
Yes.
All right.
Proton John was I think like the first Let's Player I saw.
Yeah, dude, like him and Nintendo Capri Sun were like the first ones that I ever saw back in the day.
Okay, you're going. Oh my God,
Oh yeah.
you're going back to the oldies.
Oh
Oh
dude.
my God.
Bro, I'm
Yeah.
an OG, I'm an OG
You
knowing all
know.
that stuff.
Yeah. Same,
But
bro. Yeah. Yeah.
Proton John and then he had this friend called like Azure Blade or something.
Oh, okay.
I don't think anybody really remembers this guy. But that dude would play these Mario ROM hacks and he'd fail at them and when he would die, this little like black box would pop up at the bottom of the screen with some like just rude text that would be like, wow, you really suck at jumping, or wow, you are the worst Mario ever. And I loved it. I was like, man, I love the fact that this text box is thinking what I'm thinking, and I don't have to type it in the comments, and it's just in the video. And so I stole it from him just 100% because I was like, this is such a good idea. And then yeah, that's how old Texty was formed, just as a way for me to pick on myself.
Yeah, no, because that's clearly what it did.
Oh yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah. Let's see. What is your like feeling about that? Going back to the That's a Raven Game Boy Advance review, was that just kind of like a thing like you'll never revisit? Were you proud? Were you like, oh, geez?
I'm pretty proud actually. Like when I look back on it, it was super amateur in like so many ways. Like I had just figured out how to use a DSLR at that time, but I didn't. And by use it, I mean I knew how to turn it on and record. I didn't know how to white balance or like do anything like that. So any of the, I don't think I did it in the That's So Raven video, but in future ones I started using video clips and everything of myself. But I think it was pretty good for back then, especially. I was trying to be like JonTron. Honestly,
That's
that's for the
right.
whole video. Yeah, JonTron and then
Yeah.
Pro Jared. Yeah, those two guys.
Oh my God. That reminds me. Did you see that comment? I think you did on your video of someone like, I love this video. It's like Pro Jared if he was into these types of girls.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Ugh.
Dude, that's good. I am so happy that you and I are on the same.
Like, oh my God. These
Mm.
these kids actually legit like don't know like some things that I formatively grew up with. Like there's this whole new generation now that's completely deaf to
Oh,
Newgrounds and like Dragon Ball Z abridged.
yep. Dude, if it ain't Fortnite and TikTok, they don't want it.
uh yeah. Um let's see. This is a random question. What's your take on Porter Robinson?
Oh, dude. I love Porter Robinson stuff. That, like, Porter Robinson is what I wished I could have been back when I was doing, like, more of the electronic music. Like, just
Right,
that
yeah.
style, like his drums and his synths and his progressions. Exactly the kind of stuff that I would hear in my head, but I wasn't able to make it.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so interesting. So that actually segues into another thing. You mentioned a bit ago about how you got into lo-fi, hip hop, and chill hop, and just all of the, I call them like prefix hops because it's literally any kind of prefix, right?
Yeah, true, true.
The next few years it'll come out, it'll be like fork hop and spoon hop. Um,
I'm jumping onto that bandwagon.
yeah. Um, but you said that they were evolutions of basically just general ambient music, and while I don't disagree, I wanna add on to that. So in the 2010s era, when I was in like I want to say 2011 and into the early 2010s and into the mid 2010s of like 2015, 2014, 2016, I remember coming across these artists, and you might remember these, or maybe you didn't run across them. Um, Float 11, DJ Okawari, Blazo, and Nujabes. And
Oh, oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I feel like a lot of lo-fi hip hop is actually, and I mean, I don't mean to be too hateful. There was a time when I was actually into lo-fi hip hop. I actually legit, like, it actually was like, it was like it inspired me to get into photography here and there. Like I remember, like I shit you not. I did the anime main character thing, and I when I was at college, I put in an earbud and played lo-fi hip hop, walked around my campus, and like took pictures.
Bro, that
um,
that's pretty anime, man. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah. Um, but I feel like lo-fi hip hop and a lot of stuff, it's just uninspired reproduction of Nujabes. I feel like it's like Nujabes and like the 2010. I call them the 2010s DJs because a lot
Yeah.
of them consider themselves DJs. Like he was, I think for like a hot second, he was called DJ Nujabes or something.
Yeah.
Um, you ever listen to Nujabes?
I have. So him and there was another one that was really similar to him. I don't know if you've heard. No Saj Thing. It was
Oh no, but I
super similar to his style, and I loved it.
heck yeah. Um, yeah, and I have like a whole Spotify playlist of like these types of artists, and
Yeah.
it's so weird. There's one called Replus. Do you ever listen to Replus?
I've heard.
Because they've done some religious songs, so I wonder if you'd be interested.
Really?
Now it's subtle though, because I don't know if this is the thing that maybe you've experienced, but I feel like religious songs are either one of two things, right? They're either incredibly symbolic and subtle, in which case you actually can't tell whether they're about like God or like a girl this guy likes,
Yeah.
or they're like incredibly in your face, like Jesus is my brother, like,
Yeah.
and yeah, and so Replus did like a few like symbolic religious songs. I feel like that when you listen to them, you're like, oh, this is about Jesus.
Uh-huh.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I gotta obviously. You said you were into country for a bit there. Um, can you elaborate more on that?
I don't know if I should because I know that you're gonna immediately judge me. 6 months I listened to Bro Country, like
Bro
Florida Georgia
country.
Line and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I know. Don't judge.
Wow.
Judge mentally, not
No.
verbally.
No.
That's but that's how I got into country. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, it's not so bad. I mean, it's basically just pop with a southern accent. And then and then after I had all the garbage and the fast food, I started to get into the good country, which was like, some old Willie Nelson or like Hank Williams or something like that.
Hmm.
Like the actual OG pretty good country.
Yeah.
And speaking of country, there's an artist I love. I don't know if you've heard of him, Father John Misty. He
No,
is
that sounds familiar
he's
though.
yeah, he's one of my favorite songwriters of all time, and he takes a lot from like country music. And what I love about it is the way that country music, especially older country music, just seamlessly weaved a story throughout their songs, and it didn't feel like you were in a verse. It didn't feel like you were in a chorus. It was just like this dude's talking to you about his day or about his truck or about his wife or whatever.
Hmm.
And so that's what I really fell in love with country was like the storytelling aspect of it, not the bro country.
Yeah. So no, I actually have a running CV with country. I so I like what's called soft rock with a southern twang. I've made that
Mm.
up. I don't know if that's actually a standard other people use. But like I like soft rock with a southern twang. Like I like Fleetwood Mac because that's just classic
Oh,
rock. Fleetwood Mac is classic rock, but
yeah.
I feel like the lead singer, she has this weird like twang voice to her.
No,
Um
I can see it. I see
that
what you mean.
yeah, and I love that. Like I love that it's like this and then I don't know if you remember an alternative rock band way back in the day called Saving Abel.
Oh, dude, that sounds really familiar.
They did like they did a song that got popular, and as for some reason radio songs tend to be, it's never a good showcase of the band. But it was called like Addicted. I'm so addicted to all the things you do. No? Okay.
Oh, that sounds really familiar though.
Yeah. Um, and they did this one song called Drowning, and it was so country-esque. Like it was like times before I'm in the valley. I'm like, whoa. But it was alternative rock, but I'm like, no, this sounds like Josh Turner had sex with Nickelback. Like I'm like, this is nuts. But and then the other day I was listening to country folk from like the 60s, like John Denver or Johnny Cash.
Oh, John Denver's so good.
Yeah. And I couldn't help but notice there's this weird, like, I don't know when the transition happened. It might have been the 90s, maybe. I don't know. There's this weird transition in country where old like 60s folk music was like angsty about like going to work and hating your boss, and then like modern day 2000s like oddies and like 2010s country music is just like just identifying with just going to a job at all, and it's so stupid. Like old, like
Yeah.
there's literally an old Johnny Cash song, I don't know what it's called, but it's like it's about wanting to punch your boss in the face. I think it's called Oni or something. um and modern day country is literally just, I go to a job, I go to a job, you know? Like, I don't know. Have you noticed that transition or?
100%. 100. Oh my gosh, that's perfect, dude. That's literally that's literally what it is. With a lot of autotune nowadays though. A lot of autotune.
Yeah, what's that guy who did driving in a 30? That guy? It's like Sam Hunt. Sam Hunt, I think. You know Sam Hunt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He's really like a pop country artist. It's disgusting.
My thoughts exactly.
Oh man. Let's see. Wow. Well, I have. Okay. Um. Well, let's see. Here we go. So I remember. I think. Do you like Hillsong United? That's
Yeah.
not. That's not the final question. Yeah. It's so interesting. Like I said, it's so weird. I have a pretty interesting. Um, I have a story to tell about my relationship with like religion. Um, I definitely, I identify as spiritual because I it sound like a fucking, whatever hippie bananas, but like I just think that, I get vibes about things, and it's like, and I've had some intense dreams, in my life, and I'm like, bro, there, something's going on. Um, but what that something is, whether it's Ishtar or Yahweh, it's hard to say
Yeah.
for me. Um, and so what's uh what's been your you said you got into religion around 2017 when you were
I
making a lot
think
of.
it
Yeah.
I think it was actually probably 2015
Mm,
was when I got back in, and then it was kind of a slow uphill climb until I was comfortable enough to go to a church.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, tell me
uh,
tell me if you're comfortable about that, about your journey into getting religious.
dude, I can give you I can give you a very good story.
Go ahead.
It takes some turns, that's for sure. So yeah, so 2015, basically so what happened was I grew up kind of in a Christian household, and then as I got to, I don't know, 15 or something, I was just kind of like, I'm good. I don't need it. I got other stuff I want to focus on. And then if you followed my channel at all, there was a point where I hurt my wrist really bad, and like
Oh,
I
yeah.
couldn't edit videos, I couldn't play guitar, like I couldn't hold a remote, like It was
Did you
bad.
you really just tore that tendon up or something?
So I think what was happening was I was doing so much editing, like nonstop, and the mouse I was using was a gaming mouse and not a very ergonomic mouse. I think
Mm.
over time of not giving myself a break, because I was editing like every day out of the week, and that was 6+ hours probably. I think I just pushed it to a point to where I was super close to getting carpal tunnel, and
Mm-hmm.
thank God I didn't, but I was really close from what the doctor was telling me at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is terrifying as like a guitar player or an instrument player, or guess what? As a gamer, because that's like pretty freaking
Right.
like I mean my mouse and my right hand go hand in hand, so it's kind of debilitating there. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I had a really bad scare with that, and it threw me into a really terrible depression. And I just kind of remember uh, finding my way back to Christianity at that time. I think it's because I was at my lowest at that point in my life. And there's something that is so, I don't, it's almost peaceful about looking to God in such a dire circumstance, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I felt like I was at the very lowest I could be, but there was like a light that I could kind of grab onto that kind of almost nullified the crap that I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
So through that, I was starting to read the Bible. I was starting to like try and pray more. I was trying to be more of a Christian, I suppose. And that's when I started to make pretty big changes in how I was doing stuff online, where I kind of stopped cussing as much, and in turn turned that to like no cussing. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, there was a huge shift in stuff, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, I feel like I maybe took it too far in some areas, but you know, whatever, you live and you learn. But so I ended up going to church, and yeah, man, I got really, really engrossed. I said a little bit earlier, I got really engrossed in it to where it was pretty much my life at that point. So I served at a church for like 4 years. So after Illuminate came out, really deep into it, and eventually I got offered a job at a pretty big Baptist church close to my area. And I went into that head first. And man, I will tell you, being in the South and being like a Christian, it just kind of goes hand in hand. It's just like everybody does it. But
Yeah.
it's so stereotypical, but it's so true. It's like people that that don't even know what the Bible says. They're just like, well, I go to church on Sunday, you know, I'm a Christian. And
Mm-hmm.
so I went super heavy into it. I went really, really heavy into it. Um, I think that is a pro and a con of who I am as a person, because if I like something, I go really deep into it. And if I don't like something, I don't go into it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And man, um, I won't elaborate on it too much, but to cut out
Mm-hmm.
most of the middle part, which is literally just me being depressed and only using 5 chords to write songs.
That's
I
right.
had a
That's right.
Yeah, terrible. As a musician, you know, it's really limiting. But man, I working in a church is so much different than like attending a church. Like when you attend a church, you kind of get to see it from the outside and it looks pretty
Mm-hmm.
nice. And then when you work at a church, you go into the bowels of it and you get to see,
Yeah.
quite frankly, how disgusting it is. Yeah, I'm being straight with you. It's nasty. So you
Oh
get,
no.
yeah, I don't have like a very good ending to like to this, but man, working at a church, seeing the inside of it, seeing like, because if you read the Bible, and what really drew me to it was like loving people. It's always
Mm-hmm.
been a big thing for me. Even when I was doing like BananaPieLord stuff, I loved like having people DM me, and if they had an issue or whatever going on in their life, I just like to talk to them. I just like to
Mm-hmm.
be that person that you could talk to if you're having a bad day. That's something that I always wanted when I was younger, and so I wanted to be able to give that back to people. And so people, it's something that's always been a huge thing on my heart. And the Bible is like super clear about loving your neighbor, loving people. Like love is basically the number one thing in it. Unless you read the Old Testament where God just killed people for no reason, but we won't we
Yeah.
won't bring that up.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so working in the church, man, and like seeing how everything just comes down to numbers and that there's really no care for the people there, especially for the teenagers. Oh man, dude, it soured me so bad. Like that working at a church is the best way to lose your faith. Like 100%. Like
Oh,
if you if you
yeah.
have any questions about like faith, go work in a church. You probably won't have any faith after you're done working there. But
Holy crap.
yeah, it's terrible. I could write a book on all that crap. But short
Yeah.
end of the story to not make this linger on for an hour. Um, in 2020, my my mentor at the church got fired for like bullcrap inner church political reasons.
Mm.
And that just led me to a big existential thing of just seeing how cutthroat and business minded churches are. And so
Hmm.
I kind of stepped away from it. And where I'm at, I'm somewhere, but I will just say at the core of everything, just I love people, and that's where I stand. Religion right now is very much not my favorite thing, for sure.
I see. Okay. Okay. So then, well, yeah. So would you say that then you're more spiritual than religious?
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, for sure. And I mean, honestly, man, I don't know where you're at on like the spiritual level or whatever, but there is something so beautifully chaotic about the world when you just view the world as chaotic and random, if that makes any sense. It's like
Hmm.
we don't none of us know if there's an actual creator. None of us know what happens after we die. None of us know anything. Really just forcing myself to look at different viewpoints, forcing myself to learn about other stuff and just see the world in a different way. Because I think if you're in a situation for too long, like say you're in a say you're in the South in a Baptist church around a bunch of Southern Christian people, it can be very easy to only have that viewpoint of the world. But
Hmm.
you go over to somebody in Japan, and they're going to have a completely different viewpoint of their world. And you go to somebody in England, they're going to have a different viewpoint. Like everybody's going to have a different viewpoint. So it was a big learning experience for me with everything that happened at working with the church to just question things more, for sure.
And I would say too that it's not just different perspectives, but I feel like people are in different parts of the world are full on inspired by different inspirations that, you know, if you're not there, you just have no access to, I guess, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely, man. Like,
Yeah.
have you watched or read anything on? There's a couple of guys. Terrence McKenna is one guy. He's a philosopher, and then there is oh man, there was one more. I can't remember his name. There was a Swedish one,
Oh, a
but
Swedish one. Oh,
yeah, oh yeah, man, they get good. But I got really heavy into like all the philosophy stuff, um, and that
hmm.
brings me back to the point of the craziest thing is, man, like you take any of the Buddhist stuff or like the Hindu stuff and everything, and the
Hmm.
way that people grow up in that, the way that they're like taught, um, it's just so crazy like how different it is to like everything that we believe over here. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's so different, but I mean it's not wrong. And that was something that sounds so stupid to say out loud. So don't judge me too hard for that. But it's so interesting to know that like, you know, as right as I am, they're just as right in what they believe.
Hmm.
Like like everybody, you can kind of glean something from everything, really. And I think that's what makes it all special. Like you can take stuff from Jesus, you can take the parables, you can take the stuff from Buddha, um, and you can take stuff from like the Catholic Church or whatever. I mean, like there's all this stuff that you can take that if you just apply it, maybe not go super deep into it because some of it's kind of crazy, but you can apply different stuff to your life and just have a completely different view on the world in general and who you are as a person just by really, man, just by just embracing other parts of the world. Yeah. Not as eloquent as I wanted to put that, but I hope it made sense.
No, of course, you're preaching to the choir. It's so crazy. I wasn't expecting to maybe just even mention it here, but I mean, I have read bits of the Bible. I I've read the Bible. Yeah, um, I've read Hindu stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I've looked into histories too. That's always fascinating me. The history of Hinduism, the history of Christianity. Um, and yeah, no, I've listened to Terrence McKenna. He's, yeah, he's the guy who's like, I was speaking with the machine elves after tripping on some shrooms. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
I'm so happy you know who he is. You did the voice perfectly.
Thanks. Um, yeah, man. Yeah, man. Like, because he's big into talking about spiritual experiences through psychedelics,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's gonna sound dumb, but I've had like spiritual experiences with scented candles.
Really?
Yeah. I actually made a post. Oh my god. Well, a while back, I was talking on the subreddit r slash psychedelics, and I made a post about how I had a spiritual experience with a scented candle, and believe it or not, I was expecting like some pushback. One of the comments was a girl going, "God damn it, I've been trying to get a." I mean, this is it's funny because I mean this is the part now where I anecdote too on like my stuff, right? Because I feel now emboldened to do so because it's like like but I've been through the ringer a bit. I I've had some crazy dreams that make me go like, what the hell was that about? I'm like, really, like really?
Do you
I
remember any of them?
Oh, of course. I had a dream where I was Adam being created. Um,
Oh my God.
it was really, and I didn't put it together until afterwards. But
Yeah.
because what was happening was, there was this, I was just this vision. I was this disembodied vision. I didn't have like a form yet. I was just looking out over the land, and then this booming voice said like, "You are the Alpha." In a sense of like the first, because Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end,
Yeah.
and um, and Adam is the first man, and this voice was like, "You are the Alpha," and I didn't have a form yet, and what happened was these leaves and dirt and mud started like swirling together and made me, and that's of course how it's said that God made Adam, right? Is from the dirt, from the earth.
Yeah.
So I woke up from that dream and I was like,
Jeez.
holy shit. Like, um,
Yeah, that's a pretty heavy one, man.
yeah, yeah. Um, I had this one dream where and this was back when I was graduating high school. I had a
Mm.
dream when I was graduating high school that I had a daughter, and I
Oh
was
wow.
like, I was teaching her how to watch TV and like eat food because she was like young, like she was like infantile,
Yeah.
and but just the it was this raw, crazy, intense feeling of like just pure love. And I remember like I woke up from that dream the following morning, burst into tears. Like completely just cried like a baby. I was like, what the fuck? Like that dream was just so beautiful and intense and
Yeah.
full of like love that it just shocked me to my core. Um, and then and then on the flip side, I had a dream. I had this one dream one night that was a series of like four or five false awakenings where I thought that I was waking up, but I was waking up in another dream. And each and every other dream, was like intense and scarier and more confusing. And this was the interesting thing. It was confusing and murky and misty and paralyzing. It wasn't like antagonistic and bullying, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but there was at the end of the dream, um, what happened was I got a text message on my dream phone, and it was from like this demon that actually like gave their name and said like, you know, I'm I'm right here or something. And I remember waking up from that
Jeez.
dream, and I shit you not, I legit was actually still paranoid and freaked out after I'd woken up for the first few minutes that I like looked out of my window of my bedroom and looked around and tried to like ground myself because I was like, this better be reality this time, for like a good
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and it was absolute reverse of the daughter dream. Like it was scary and evil and paralyzing and confusing.
Yeah.
And so and so when people, they talk about, oh, angels, demons and, ghosts and spirits and shit, I'm like, bro, there's something. Like, I cannot say that there's nothing. There's something going on with all of that.
For
Um,
sure, man. Dude, you've had some insane like dreams. I've never had anything like that.
oh yeah.
Like not like the closest thing that I guess I've had is I had this was a couple months ago. It was actually before I started working on this album. I had this I was like going in and out of sleep. So I put my AirPods in and I played an album and then like trumpets started coming out of the mountain and I think some angels came down. It just got really, really visual and really weird as I was listening to it.
Oh
That
wow.
that yeah,
Yeah.
that's like I was never born though. I was never made like Adam.
Wow. Yeah. Um, this one time I ended up walking. So in my area, so I'm so I guess some background. So I was baptized Lutheran, but I haven't officially ever gone to church except for Christmas and Easter. Um, ever since I was like 9. Like I've never gone to just any old church service for just no reason, right? Like
Yeah.
ever since I turned like well, actually, 11. When I turned 11, um, the household just became practicing atheists, really.
Mm.
Um, but but when I was like, Lord, 16 or something, I think, like 16 or 18 years old, um, I went to this what was called a Greek Orthodox church, and I felt so weirdly at home. Like I felt so peaceful and so just like it just felt so like welcome home. Like have you ever felt that when you step into a place and there's just this weird like welcome home feeling about
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I never felt that though at any other churches. any of the Lutheran ones I went to when I was much younger or anything.
So speaking of that, have you like looked anything or have you looked any more into like Orthodox like Christianity?
So, um, a little bit. I did a little bit of digging, and so what I came away from with was that they seem to be like proto Protestant because they seem to actually be somewhat like antithetical to Catholics, just
Yeah.
like the Protestants were. Because there's like stuff that like the Orthodox. It just seems to be like at odds with Catholicism in certain respects. And I'm like, oh well, that's cool. I was never a Catholic, so this fits right in, I guess, with me. Um, but and I'd have to look it up, but it because like you can like look up like Orthodox versus Catholic, and you get a real dichotomy. Like there's like some distinguishing factors that separate them. Um, but and then so I have Indian ancestry. I'm white as fuck, but like I have like some like Southwest Asian like Indian, like New Delhi and Pakistan.
Oh wow.
Um, and yeah, ancestry. And there's something called the Indian Orthodox Church, the Christian Indian Orthodox Church. Um, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so weird that like this entire time I've always felt at home in this Orthodox church,
Yeah.
and then I find that I have Indian ancestry, and then I find that there's an Indian Orthodox denomination. I'm like, that is really fascinating.
That's
Um,
actually really cool, man. Like
yeah,
seriously.
oh, yeah. I mean, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I'm coming to this revelation too with my mind blown. Like what? But yeah, the long silence. Have we lost him?
Oh no, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. But I guess you've never had anything like that then.
Like going into a church and having that happen or
Yeah, because then you said working at a church kind of ruined the vibe, or
oh, for sure. For sure. Um
yeah.
yeah, so like I said earlier, attending a church is like great for the most part. Um once I started like reading my Bible and like once I really started studying the Bible, I guess I should say, and like church history and everything, and then
Hmm.
you see just how oh my gosh, man, like the Western church, like modern church in America is just a business, really. And so when you're working in a church and you've got like staff meetings and it's just talking about like attendance and how to like market to people like online, it's just like, I don't know,
Yeah.
man. Like just this sense of home, a sense of peace that you almost can't put into words. I've
Hmm.
had that happen. Really weird, but like I went to North Carolina for a vacation. I'm with my parents, and so we were just out in the middle of nowhere, um, this little rinky-dink town in a cabin somewhere. And man, I just remember being out there surrounded by like all the nature and the trees and everything, and the weirdest just like sense of calm and peace just kind of washed over me because I've always been in Georgia and Florida for most of my life. So going up there to like mountains and like lots of trees and just tons of nature and like trails and everything. I felt very at home with that. And I started going on more walks and like trails when I got back to Florida and immersing myself in nature and stepping away from like electronics like 24/7.
Hmm.
And I started doing like walking meditation like out on trails and stuff.
Hmm.
And that's been something for me that's felt like home. Not like a singular place, but just away from everything, just in nature almost, I suppose. It sounds like I'm about to start talking about like fig leaves or berries or something, or that I'm out there killing rabbits or something.
Yeah. No, I have an Instagram page where I post scenic pictures alongside some, for better or for worse, some political messages. But the scenic pictures I take, because I try to go to a park every weekend and take
Yeah.
scenic pictures. Um, and yeah, like with or without like a friend, it's like if you come along, great. If you don't, like I'm going on my own.
Oh, for sure.
Because yeah, no, totally. Like there's something about walking around in in uh, in just different biomes. Like look like like walking
True.
through like a valley, walking up some rocks and then looking down and seeing a river. There's something about it that just feels so ancestral. It's like, oh, people before me and people before them did this same thing a million times, and it's in my DNA to do this and be like, wow, how pretty, you know?
No,
Um,
dude, you're so right on that. There is this guy. He's a he was around like Terrence McKenna's time. I can't remember his name at all, and it's so frustrating because he's like really popular.
was it Ram
But
Dass?
no, no,
Oh,
he's a white guy. Um, oh my God, I'm gonna probably just like send this to you on a message later because I'm so annoyed right now. But he said this one thing that really resonated to me last year. It was the universe is basically like looking through us back at itself. So whenever I'm out, like you said, like in different biomes, pretty much, it's like this weird like interconnectedness with the area that you're at. When you like just slow down and like start to take it in and just like appreciate it for like what it is and just understand that you're just looking at this just gorgeous view.
hmm
And I always think about that like it's not just me looking at a rock, it's not just me looking at a tree, but it's like the universe is just looking back through itself, really. Just there's so much more to it than just a tree. There's so much more to it than just like a rock. And I mean, for you and me, there's more to it than just being like skin and bones, man.
hmm Yeah, no, totally. Um, well, right here, this is the outro. um, this will be where we cut off. Thank you so much. You've reached the end of the river for now. Um, before it flows out into the tributary of other future episodes and potentially recurring guests. This has been Too Many Casts. I'm Ryan Sierra. This is the legendary BananaPieLord of the olden YouTube days. And thank you very much for coming on, man.
Yeah, dude, thanks, man. It was a great talk.
Oh, yeah.